In this video, we're gonna be talking all about the fake it till you make it versus the imposter syndrome. Let's be real, the imposter syndrome is something we all have to face. No matter who you are, no matter how good of a developer you are, we all face it. And we all know the fake it till you make it is something we've all heard before. The concept is, if you don't know what you're doing, you've got to fake it and figure it out. So fake it, do it as best you can, figure it out along the way, fake it till you make it to the top. So we're kind of looking at these two things today, the fake it till you make it and the imposter syndrome. Hi, my name is Jason Humphrey and welcome to this video. Now my story here for this video is about a student that I was helping out and they couldn't really get behind the idea. I was telling them on, hey, look, I know you don't get this, but we just gotta fake it till you make it. That's what we gotta embrace. You gotta go in there into these interviews and fake it till you make it. I know you don't feel like you don't belong, but let's just do that. We both agreed and both were on board and embraced it for them and was like, yeah, we're just gonna do this. And something they brought up to me was like, hey, look, Jason, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna try, but I'm having a really hard time getting behind this idea of fake it till you make it. They couldn't fully embrace it because they felt like a fraud behind it all. Because yeah, even though they were giving it their all and they were faking the best as they could, putting a smile on, doing what they could, they still said they felt like a fraud at the end of the day and that it just wasn't them and they were having a really tough time with it. And when I heard that, I was like, oh damn, I've always embraced the fake it till you make it. I've actually talked about this with Samez before. I'm just like, damn, they're right. Like, now that I take a step back to think about it, like I myself in times have felt like a fraud when I'm doing the fake it till I make it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I started thinking to myself like, okay, there's gotta be another way because it's crucial for what it does because it will put you out there, right? But at the same time, it can hinder you if you let it get inside your head of like, no, I'm really a fraud even though I'm doing this, because you might not be at the top level. Like you might not be putting out the best stuff you can because at the same time you're holding yourself back because you have the feeling of a fraud. So what happened? Well, I learned a different style and the concept is this and I want to share it with you. And the concept is this. It's act as if. You are to act as your ideal thought. So if we get in an interview and we get asked a question and it's a tough one, what we're going to be saying to ourselves is, how would I act as if I was the best developer in the room? How would you act as if the best developer was just asked, what's most important to them in their development career? What would they care about? And you portray this ideal thought you have of what the best developer looks like. Now to do that, you have to sit down and think about that ahead of time. And I know a lot of us have, so like I love asking this question to students, especially when it comes to confidence issues. Instead of fake it till you make it, we act as if we're a confident developer. What does a confident developer look like to you? Do they stand up straight? Do they stick their chest out? Do they look confident? Do they smile? Do they wait for other people to talk? Do they listen? What do they do that makes them the best developer in your mind? I also like asking this question because when it comes down to what does a confident developer look like, I get tons of answers. Always different, always unique. Because truth be told here, what really matters is what in your eyes is that ideal developer. What does confidence look like to you? It doesn't matter what it looks like to me. And that's why I feel like this is so powerful for people is everyone has a thought to this. Everyone has an opinion to what the ideal developer looks like. And when you've developed that opinion, it becomes that much easier to say, hey, I'm gonna act as if I'm the best developer in the room. And the best developer would do this, this, and this every time. They'd always speak clearly, they'd always give direct answers, and they would always give it their all. What is this all doing for us? Why does this work? Why does this work for me? Why will this work for you? I believe that this works for people better than fake it till you make it because of how you are mentally priming yourself. Instead of a space of faking it, you're priming your brain from a space of the ideal thought that will carry you to success of where you're trying to go. What happens if I can't think of any? I can't think of the ideal. What I've seen happen is, the nerves will come rushing in and you're gonna feel this. And potentially the first couple interviews, maybe, and I'm just going to use interviews as the example here, maybe you mess those up. But what you need to do is you write down what you're feeling when these nerves come in and you can't figure out what you need to act as if, or you can't even fake to make it's not working. Write down what those nerves felt like, or write down what you were trying to accomplish but couldn't, so you can come back to it, think about it later. The worst part is when you get stuck and you're repeating the same thing over and over and not doing anything different about it. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and expect a different result. So we need to understand what you're feeling, what nerves are going through your mind, and then write down so we can later think about, okay, well, that didn't work. What is the ideal thing about this? Maybe you got asked a question you didn't know, and we come back and visit that later. So at some point, you have a full picture of what that ideal developer looks like to you. Overall, fake it till you make it is great, and it's helped me a ton out. But now, I use the act as if, which is extremely powerful for me mentally, and I believe it can be mentally powerful for you too. And that's because it will allow you to release yourself from the idea of faking it and allow you to enter the idea of the ideal developer. If you're interested in more implementing the act as if you're interested in helping that, I've created a service called the Coding Career Fastlane where I help you accelerate your tech career. And a part of that is the imposter syndrome. I have about 2 hours of content all on the imposter syndrome to help you out, including the act as if framework and how to fully implement it and how to prepare yourself for it. Overall, to answer this video's question, I think the imposter syndrome might win sometimes. So for you, I challenge you to use act as if so that you can beat imposter syndrome.